I'm so thankful for the Portland Trailblazers organization and the opportunity that they gave me. It was a great things, great blessings brought to my family after that. And I'm just very thankful for everything that happened. I'm sorry, I couldn't really live up to the number one, spot.
Drafting the correct prospect isn't easy. You have a team of people dedicating months and months of their lives watching hours and hours of film, putting probably dozens and dozens of players through different workouts trying to get the pick right. But we all know that drafting a player is an imperfect science. We still have players that are drafted really high in the draft and they ultimately don't find a role in the league. Whether that be injuries, the player simply not being good enough, or the player not committed enough to their craft and getting better, we have seen plenty of players drafted with very high picks turn out to be draft busts. As you probably seen from the thumbnail, the topic of this video is Greg Oden. He was a former number 1 overall pick and is known as one of the biggest draft busts in NBA history. When healthy, he was a difference maker on the defensive side of the floor. If Oden were to stay healthy, he had the tools to be a defensive anchor on a contending NBA team. That's how talented he was. Before I get into the video, I just wanted to stop and say thank you to everybody who is watching. To all the new subscribers, I appreciate you guys subscribing to the channel. If you enjoyed the video, please make sure to leave a like, comment, and subscribe. Also, make sure to follow my Instagram and Twitter accounts as well. I'm going to start to be more active on there. I have the links for those in the description. But other than that, let's get to the video. Gregory Wayne Oden Jr. was born January 22nd, 1988 in Buffalo, New York. Him and his family would move from New York to Indiana when he was just 9 years old. Him and his family would end up settling in the city Indianapolis, where Greg would end up attending high school. Greg would attend Lawrence North High School. He would put his high school on the map, helping them win 3 consecutive Indiana Class 4A state championships. He was also a 2-time National Gatorade Player of the Year, along with being named Indiana Mr. Basketball in 2006. Him and his high school teammate Mike Conley Jr. both decided to commit to Ohio State, creating a lot of hype in Columbus at the time. Oden was considered to be the number 1 prospect in that year's class. Not only did Ohio State sign the best prospect in that recruiting class, they signed the number 1 overall ranked class in the Big Ten and the number 2 overall class in the nation. Expectations were high and Greg Oden would live up to those expectations. As a matter of fact, he would exceed those expectations. He was a monster in the paint. Scouts would describe Oden as a once-in-a-decade type player. In his one season at Ohio State, Oden would average 15 points per game, 9 rebounds, and well over 3 blocks per game as well. Oden's archetype was the mold of a 7-foot version of Bill Russell. Oden had exceptional athleticism for his size. His offensive game wasn't very polished, with mostly being dunks, layups, and putbacks. He may have been limited to only scoring in that manner, but he did it well with a field goal percentage of over 60% in college. However, Oden's defense is what made him so special. He was an elite shot blocker coming out of college. He also had great lateral quickness, giving him the ability to be a solid help defender. Oden was also considered to be an excellent rebounder with hands that were not only soft but strong, with Oden rarely ever losing the ball. On top of all these things, Oden was a great guy. He was mature and had a great work ethic. Oden was literally the dream prospect for teams at the time. Oden was selected number 1 overall, even with KD being in the draft. That should tell you how special this guy was. Do you know one thing that I haven't mentioned though during this entire video? Greg ever getting hurt, because up to this point, he never got hurt. Greg was fortunate enough not to have any issues with his knees up to that point. Oh man, would that change quickly. Before even stepping foot on the NBA court, Oden would have microfracture surgery on his right knee. This would cause him to miss his entire rookie season. Even though Oden would miss his rookie year and the team would only go 41-41, there was a buzz in Portland. The fans were starting to get excited with how the team was starting to look. You already had an elite scoring guard with Brandon Roy and a solid 4-man with Aldridge. If Oden is who the scouts said he was, then on paper this team looked very dangerous, and next season Portland would have a strong year. The Blazers would go 54-28, finishing with the 4th best record in the Western Conference that season. Oden that year would play 61 out of the 82 games, starting in 39 of them. His stats that year weren't anything special, only being 9 points, 7 rebounds while only shooting 56% from the field. The team would be matched up that year in the playoffs with the Rockets. The Blazers would end up losing to the Rockets in 6 games. Oden didn't really impact the series much. He only played 16 minutes per game that series and averaged only 5 points and 4 rebounds. At the start of next season, the Blazers wanted to see what they had with their number 1 overall pick, so they moved into the starting lineup full time. KD had made a name for himself by this time, and Portland was hopeful that they did not just make a huge mistake drafting Oden number 1 overall. He played relatively well once he became a full-time starter. He had a game where he scored his career high in points early that season, scoring 24 points against Chicago in the 16th game of the year. He then had a game with a career high 20 rebounds 4 games later against the Miami Heat. But on December 5th, 2009, Greg would suffer one of the most gruesome injuries I've ever seen. Oden would end up suffering a fractured left patella. His knee was shattered. When looking at it, it looked like his knee was bent inward. He was stretchered off the floor, and that would be the last time Oden would play for the Blazers. Greg Oden would not step back on the NBA floor for 3 seasons. While missing these 3 seasons, Oden would undergo arthroscopic surgery on his right knee along with 2 more microfracture surgeries on his left knee. Oden's body was betraying him, and there was nothing he could do about it. The Blazers gave up on the number 1 overall pick, making him one of the biggest draft busts in NBA history. By the time the Blazers released Oden, KD had already become a 3-time All-Star and had a season where he averaged 30 points per game. Oden had interest from other NBA teams hopeful that they could tap into any of the potential left in the former top prospect. He ended up signing a deal with the Miami Heat during their Big 3 era. He only played in 23 games for the Heat that season in a very limited role. During the playoffs, he really played, and that would be the year that the Spurs got the revenge on the Heat, beating them in 5 games. This would be the last time Oden would be on the NBA roster. Even though Oden would be considered to be one of the biggest busts in NBA history, he seems to be in a healthy mental space about it. I'm over all that. I know I'm one of the biggest busts in NBA history, and I know that it'll only get worse as Kevin Durant continues to do more big things. It's frustrating that my body can't do what my mind wants it to do sometimes, but worrying or complaining about it isn't going to fix anything. After his time with the Heat, Oden would get into some legal trouble, and his story had a chance to turn upside down like we've seen with many other athletes in the past. On August 11, 2014, Oden was charged with battery for hitting his ex in the face 4 days prior. He pleaded guilty to the case in 2015. He didn't receive any jail time for the incident, and he was only put on probation and was forced to attend counseling. After his incident, Oden wanted to get back on the court. He loved the game of basketball despite the disappointing career he had at the NBA level. He ended up signing a contract with the Jiangsu Dragons to play in the CBA. In his time with the club, he averaged 13 points per game, 12 rebounds, and over 2 blocks per game. After playing in the CBA, Oden decided to shift his focus away from basketball and decided to go back to Ohio State to get his bachelor's degree in sports industry. Today, Greg is currently a part of Thad Matta's staff at Butler University, serving as the director of basketball operations. Despite what Greg Oden portrays his feelings to be in the public, I know it doesn't feel good to be considered one of the biggest busts in NBA history. Nobody wants their career to be looked at as a disappointment, but from no fault of his own, there was no other way to describe his career other than a disappointment. Greg Oden was considered to be a generational talent, but injuries derailed his career before he could even start. Despite his disappointing career, he seems to have found life after basketball, which is good to see. We can see these stories of fallen prospects become very dark, and Greg's story, despite making mistakes along the way, hasn't gotten as bad as other players. Oden is a husband and a father to a young girl, and his life after basketball is very comfortable. Let me know what you think about Greg Oden's career in the comments. Is he the biggest bust in NBA history? If you enjoyed the video, thank you for watching till the end. Please leave a like and subscribe. Comment who I should do next. It's your boy Said, and I'm out. Peace.